Sometimes life gives us moments that feel like they'll define us forever. She stood at the edge of the room that night. The party lights dimmed, laughter echoing around her, but all she could hear was the silence between them. She was certain this was the end. Certain that when he turned to leave, he'd never look back. There are moments in life when silence feels louder than anything else. At that party, surrounded by music, chatter, and the hum of laughter, she felt an emptiness in the space between them. Silence, in relationships, has a way of speaking volumes. It's not just the absence of words, it's the presence of doubt, fear, and unspoken truths. She looked at him and realized that nothing he could say felt worse than the quiet distance growing between them. Every pause, every unspoken thought, weighed heavily on her heart. It was as though the silence itself was declaring an ending, a final chapter written without ink. Silence can make us believe stories that might not even be true. It can make us feel abandoned before anyone has left, and forgotten before anyone has chosen to move on. That night, she convinced herself the silence meant goodbye. She thought he had already decided to walk away, and the lack of words felt like confirmation of her deepest fear. But what she didn't realize is that silence also carries possibility. It holds the weight of choices being made, the gathering of courage, and the struggle of emotions searching for the right expression. Sometimes silence is not the end, but the moment before a beginning. In her heart, she mistook the quiet for closure, when in fact it was simply the pause before truth found its voice. Moments like these remind us that silence should never be underestimated. It can break us or prepare us. It can convince us of loss or remind us to wait for what's coming next. For her, that silence almost felt like forever. But as she would soon learn, it was only the stillness before words that would change everything. He had already taken a few steps toward the door, and in her heart, she believed it was over. The sight of his back moving away felt like the confirmation of every fear she had tried to hide. Walking away is such a simple act, one motion, one decision, and everything that was built between two hearts can unravel in silence. She stood frozen, convinced that the distance would only grow, and soon he'd be gone for good. But then, something unexpected happened. He stopped. Just a pause, just a turn of his body, yet it shifted the air completely. That single decision to turn back was more powerful than any explanation he could have given. It meant he wasn't ready to let go, that there was still something worth holding on to. In that moment, she realized how fragile love can feel, hanging on the edge of a choice. A few more steps forward, and he would have disappeared into the night, leaving her with nothing but unanswered questions and the ache of finality. But by turning back, he gave them both a second chance. Life often presents us with these split seconds where one movement defines the future. To return to face what's difficult requires courage. It shows that love is not about perfection, but about the willingness to stay present when everything inside you wants to escape. His choice to turn back said more than words could. It was an act of love itself, a quiet refusal to let fear dictate the ending of their story. In that pause, in that decision, she understood something deeper. Sometimes the most powerful change begins not with a grand gesture, but with the simple courage to stop, to turn, and to come back. When he finally spoke, it wasn't the perfect speech she had imagined. There were no rehearsed lines, no poetic declarations that belonged in a movie. His words were simple, almost stumbling, but they carried something far more important than elegance. They carried truth. She realized in that instant that love doesn't need flawless expression. It doesn't need the grand gestures that sweep people off their feet. What matters is honesty, the raw courage to say what you feel, even if it comes out imperfectly. For so long she had believed that the only way to feel secure in love was to hear something extraordinary, something that would erase every doubt in her mind. But when he spoke, she discovered that sincerity weighs more than perfection ever could. A single, honest sentence can carry the strength of 1,000 carefully chosen words, because it is real. His voice trembled, and his pauses revealed his vulnerability. But instead of weakening his message, it made it stronger. It was proof that he wasn't trying to impress her. He was trying to reach her. We often forget that the heart doesn't crave polished speeches, it craves connection. And connection is built on authenticity. She learned in that moment that the words we speak don't need to sound perfect to change everything. They only need to be true. His words reminded her that love is not about performance, it's about presence. Not about saying the right thing at the right time, but about being willing to speak when silence feels safer. In the end, it wasn't a flawless confession that saved them. It was the imperfect, human, vulnerable truth he dared to share. And that was worth more than anything she thought she wanted to hear. Love has never been about the easy choices. Walking away, closing the door, and leaving everything behind often feels like the simpler path. It requires no explanations, no vulnerability, no risk of rejection. For him that night, leaving would have been effortless. One step forward, and he could have escaped the tension, the weight of unspoken feelings, and the fear of being misunderstood. But instead, he stayed. And in staying, he revealed something far deeper than affection. He revealed courage. Courage in love is not always about big declarations or dramatic actions. Sometimes, it is about choosing to remain present when everything inside you whispers that it would be easier to disappear. It is about facing the discomfort, the conflict, the uncertainty, and still deciding that the person in front of you is worth the struggle. That night, she realized that love doesn't thrive on perfection or harmony alone. It grows through the willingness to endure the difficult moments together. His courage was not in having the perfect words, but in refusing to let fear silence him. It was in showing her that staying, even when it's hard, is a choice of strength. She saw that his decision wasn't just about saving a relationship. It was about valuing her enough to fight for what they had, rather than surrendering to the ease of walking away. Courage in love means standing in the fire instead of retreating into safety. It means risking pain in order to hold on to joy. And in that moment, his bravery taught her a truth she would never forget. The deepest form of love isn't effortless. It is the choice to stay, to speak, and to fight, even when every part of you is tempted to run. We often underestimate the power of words, forgetting how deeply they can reach into someone's heart. That night, she was already preparing herself for silence to be the ending. She believed that nothing could undo the distance she felt growing between them. But then he spoke, and in that moment, his words became a lifeline. They were not grand or poetic, yet they carried weight, enough to stop her from falling into despair, enough to remind her that she was not alone in her fear. His voice, trembling with honesty, reminded her that love still lived between them. Words have the power to either break us or build us, to close a chapter or begin a new one. What he said didn't erase the pain they had gone through, but it gave her something she thought she had lost: hope. A few sentences were enough to shift her belief from certainty of loss to the possibility of healing. She realized that sometimes we wait for big moments to prove love, but often it's the smallest words, spoken at the right time, that change everything. His choice to speak instead of walk away revealed the impact our voices can have. It showed her that silence may leave someone drowning in doubt, but words, no matter how imperfect, can pull them back to the surface. That night, she learned that love doesn't just survive on actions alone. It needs the courage of expression, the willingness to say what the heart feels. What he gave her through his words was more than reassurance. He gave her the strength to believe again. And in that simple exchange, she discovered a truth that would stay with her forever. Sometimes, the words we choose to speak can save not just a relationship, but a soul.